Most people, I realize that people care about your experience in this space, but they don't really care about your experience.
Yeah.
The best career path someone could choose if they want to help people, they care about transformation, and they want to make a good amount of money where there is no cap to this. There is no cap to your potential and what you can make. I think you should jump in.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And I'm super excited for you guys to listen to this episode because I feel like it was a little different than our normal episode. Usually we'll go, really deep into the story and their experience within RCA, which we do talk about in this one. But this was a lot more step by step of how this person that we're talking to today, how they were able to come in and within 30 days land their remote closing job, and also doing that, like just the step-by-step process in between that. So how the interviews went, how to land the interview. We went very specific into some of the sourcing techniques and outreach messages and videos that he sent in to ensure that he was able to get placed in a very short amount of time. So with all that being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of the podcast. Before we jump too deep into it, welcome to the podcast. How's the week?
Man, my week is going really good so far, Aaron. I'm glad to be on here with you, my brother.
Let's go, man. I'm excited for this one. We're going to dive into a lot of the specifics of how everything went. So let's just, as we usually do, let's rewind the clock. So you're back before remote closing, before sales, before any of that stuff. Who is Josh? And can I call you Josh? Joshua? Doesn't
matter.
Okay, cool. Who's Joshua before all the sales stuff?
Yeah, man. So basically, I was an influencer, kind of still am an influencer, like built up a pretty large following on Instagram. And, influencer income is just inconsistent, my brother.
Yeah.
It's inconsistent. And so sometimes you have brand deals reaching out to you. Sometimes you don't, and I was coaching as well. I was coaching other people on how to grow their Instagram. And I realized by coaching, I was like, I don't really like this.
Yeah.
I don't really like, because I can't coach you how to have personality and pick up some of the skill sets and, I can't coach you to be me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I was like, man, but one of the things I found out that I really like to do and I enjoy doing was talking to people. And I just sat back and I started to think to myself, man, like, how can I make a lot of money talking to people without all the logistics of coaching? Because essentially you're an entrepreneur, you got to fulfill on the offer, you got to do delivery, you got to do back end, you got to be customer service. I'm a one man band. So I was pulling my hair out, brother. So I was like, well, I really love talking to people. I really love helping people with transformation. How can I do that? And it popped in my head, sales. So I did a little Google search and I was like, high ticket closing. And I saw an article from you guys because I was actually looking at somebody else. His name was Dan Henry. And I was looking at him because I follow him on Instagram. And I was like, well, let me just go to Google. So I went to Google and I actually watched one of your podcasts on YouTube.
Hey,
I probably watched at least 3 videos before I ever even got on a call with you guys. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, these guys are great. I know everybody that they're talking about I'm familiar with the people that they're talking about in the industry. So I was like, sales, I can make a lot of money. I can still kind of do influencing on the side, and I was like, yeah, these guys jumped on the call, signed up and was like ready to rock and roll.
Nice. I'm curious, to take a couple steps back. What, I guess, what's your Instagram? Like, what do you focus on mostly there? Like, what's like the content type?
Yeah, the content on Instagram is kind of comedic, funny, and I'm a Christian, so I make funny stuff that we don't really talk about in the church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I make funny. I put my comedic spin on it, and so yeah, man, was doing that. Started that. Been doing that for a while, but I was like, yo, didn't want to do the fulfilling end of coaching, like all the other stuff, and really just wanted to connect with people. And I feel like communication is something I enjoy, something I'm good at. And so this just seemed like a natural fit, seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the reason I asked is because I have a very similar story. Like, I don't talk about it too much because I was like, even before I started one of my first businesses, but back in like 2014, 2015, when Snapchat was big, that's why I have a little Snapchat stuff up there. So when that was big, I made a YouTube video that like literally exploded. Like, so I went from like 0 to 160,000 subscribers in like a year and a half. So I had a ton of opportunity with like all these like companies and brands, but like you said, it's like it was inconsistent, and it was just kind of a lot, and I knew that it wasn't like super sustainable.
Yeah.
So I definitely see, but like you said, it's like I just loved like talking to people, like these brands I would talk to, like I would talk to them, would talk to these other influencers, and it was like that was where I found that I like really enjoyed. So a lot of kind of crossover there. So okay, so you come through, you see a couple of videos, you have the conversation. What happened after that?
So after that, I got onboarded into the program, and I don't mind investing into myself. Have been kind of working full time as an entrepreneur since like 2017, and so when I got into the program, let's backpedal just a little bit. Yeah. So this isn't my first time getting taught on how to sell high ticket on the phone. But the program that I invested into, my first coach, that wasn't his specialty. His specialty wasn't high ticket closing, wasn't sales on the phone. So when I got into this program,
yeah, it's just when it's just specific on all of that. Yeah,
bro, I was like, if I would have had this in 2017, I'd be a stone cold killer. So yeah, man. Got into the program. I don't know if your mic went out.
No.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait. So got into the programs. One of the things I loved is how you connect with the coach as soon as you get into the program. Mm-hmm. So connected with the coach, digested all the content, probably like in a weekend. All the content that he told me to digest, I digested that content, probably like in a weekend, man. And then once I got through what he told me to get through, I did the interview, got approved, and I started self-sourcing first. Like I started immediately getting to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, one of the things that we haven't like really talked about a lot on the podcast specifically, but you mentioned it, is because your coach is Imad, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what was like, I guess maybe talk about just the overall experience of the program in terms of like the kind of support. Because I think a lot of people have that misconception of, oh, like this is just a course, I'm going to watch a bunch of videos. Like what, I guess your experience from, I just go a little bit deeper into that.
Man, so here's why I love RCA. It's the first program that I've been in that it's almost like a hybrid, right? Like you get the group support, you get the calls, you get to connect with the community. It's almost, you guys know what you're doing. Because when I came in, it's like immediately setter calls. And so now I'm not only getting practice, but I'm connected with the community. But then also I connect with my coach immediately, so I get that one-on-one support. You know what I'm saying? And so we can always get information, but it's the application of that information that's going to bring transformation. And so when I come into the program and I got the one-on-one call and he was like, yo, do this, I did it. And then I got on the setter calls, and then I got on the closer calls, and then I followed up with him. It kept me really accountable. And that's one of the things I love, because I'll invest into programs, and I've been in quite a few, and none of them had that. None of them had the one-on-one support immediately when you got in. And the community was like, yeah. So you guys kind of excel in that area from my experience.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And yeah, because I think, like I said, we haven't really talked about it too much, but it's also like a huge part of why I think our success rate is so high is because, like you said, we give direct like one-on-one access to a specific coach. And I think at this point we have 3 or 4 like calls, like group calls, literally every day, right? One around setting, one around mock calls, one around closing, one around sourcing. Like it's basically holding, like as close as we can to like holding your hand through the process, like is what you kind of get. So you touched on self-sourcing, which, this kind of leads into, okay, you're going through, you start finding some gigs. So what is the process that you use to go out and find some of these and get some of these interviews?
Okay, so I did a few things, right? Of course, I went on Google and I typed in high ticket closer, and then I did a Google search, and then, I believe it was Indeed popped up, and, I filled out some of those applications. But honestly, I didn't really get a lot of responses. I don't think I got any responses from Indeed. Or like going to one of those application, those, those,
yeah, like the job hiring board.
Right. Websites. Yeah. I didn't get any responses. It was really social media. specifically Facebook. It was Facebook. And so what happens is I join a few groups. I join a few high ticket closing groups. I join the ClickFunnels group. I go in there and I do some of the things you guys tell me to do. And then I think what really stood out for me is I reach out to people with a personalized video. And so when I reach out with that personalized video, everyone else, they're DMing them, you know, but then when they see my video come in, they're like, oh, this is different. You know, and then they see my setup and they're like, oh, this guy must be serious. And then my personality, they're like, oh, snap. Let's get him on a call.
Get this guy on an interview now.
Right. So the self-sourcing was good. Some of the stuff was like kind of sketchy.
Like, what do you mean?
So one guy I reached out to, he was like, hey, let's jump on the call. So we jumped on the call. And it wasn't even like an interview. It was like, hey, yo, great. I love it. Boom. Hey, I'm going to connect you with this guy. And he connected me with him. And then we went in Slack. And then the offer wasn't really what they said it was. But I was just trying to, man, I was just hustling, bro. I was just hustling. So I was like, it was a little sketchy, and I told him, nah, man, I don't think this would be a good fit. It was a real estate offer, and the onboarding process was too sketchy for me to really trust it. But it helped me get my wheels turning, you know. And so I realized that Facebook was the best place for me to self-source because I could join groups. People already have some interest. They're already looking. You know, I got to talk with a few different entrepreneurs, you know, who wanted to fill some positions. And I think just the way I presented myself and my personality really came across on camera where they can say, oh, this guy, he looks legit. He looks professional. He looks like he takes himself seriously. He looks like, yeah, this is someone we should take seriously. And I think that really worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you touched on is the fact that like you're able to add your personality into that. And I think it's so important because like as a remote closer, what are you doing? You're on calls with people, like you're on like Zoom calls. So for that person to be able to like see your personality, see what you look like, see the quality of, you know, we talked about your setup and like already kind of envision you selling that offer. And I think that's super important. And like you said, I think, you know, it's, as like, I've been in the marketing space for a long time. So I know like all this, like, you know, there's automations in place to send out messages and all this stuff. So, you know, these entrepreneurs are getting hit up constantly. And if they see these like super templated messages, is like even me, like we all get spam. And if I see something and I know that it's spam, I don't even open it. I'm just like, whatever. But if someone, if I see, you know, Aaron sent a video or Aaron sent a voice message, like automatically your wheels start turning. You're like, like I have to open this. Like it's intriguing. So that approach that you use with the video is it's, I'm not surprised you got a ton of responses. So what is like, can you give like an example of what one of those videos would look like, or maybe like a just really rough script of like, this is what I said and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So, excuse me. Yeah, so a rough example of that would be, hey, what's up, Aaron? I saw you posted the so-and-so in the group. I want to reach out. I'm a closer, and I was interested in what you're doing. I think it'd be good, it'd be a valuable asset to what you're doing, and I absolutely love your offer. Would love to connect, you know. Yeah. And so something short, 30 seconds, and I've always got a response when I send those videos, you know, and so it's something super short, snappy, because like you guys said in the program, some people want you to send 1 minute videos. So this is kind of my toe in the water, so to say. Like before I even send you my 1 minute video, I'm sending you my 15-second, 30-second introduction. And you get to see me, you get to feel my energy, and most people respond.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other big part too is like obviously that's unique, but also very few people are doing it. So for you to stand out, you know, people always want to ask like, how do I stand out? And you know, as more and more remote closers come into the space, like how do I stand out? I think that's you know, that's a perfect way to do it. So what was the process after that? So after you start sending these videos, you know, how I guess someone respond and was like, hey, let's get on a call, and you thought it was a good fit? Like what happened then? Yeah,
so after that, I got on a group interview. As well as some, most were one-on-one. So when I got on the interviews with the companies, like one thing that I really did is I really talked about how much I love the company. So, which means I had to do my research about the company, you know, especially the ones that I genuinely connected. Cause sometimes, you know, you say you love the company, but it's like, I don't really, really know. But talk about how much you love the company, talk about the mission, like be authentically excited about it if you are excited about it, and just do your research and find ways to recall specific things about the company that you learn about them on the interview. And so I think that's what helped me stand out as well, because some of the calls that I was on that were group calls, I noticed that these individuals didn't say anything about the company. But I'm in here like, yeah, I love this method. Oh yeah, and I checked you guys out, and this really stood out to me, and that's why I think, you know. So I'm intertwining their mission, their goals. You know, if they got an Instagram, I'm like, yeah, I checked out your post, and you know, So I'm finding a way to bring that stuff up in the interview, and it's like, also on those interviews that I think helped, it's like always have questions, even if you feel like they answered your questions, because I feel like a lot of them kind of answer my question. I was like, Jesus Christ, I don't have a question, but I made something up. I'm like, well, what about? Because I think it sends a good signal that you're genuinely curious when you have questions and you want to solve problems, you know. And so I think that was helpful. And then if you had charisma, use it. We talked about this. Show your personality. Most people, I realize that people care about your experience in this space, but they don't really care about your experience.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the same with, I mean, so many, especially in this like industry, like, you know, that's why I talk about all the time. People are always like, do I need a degree or do I need this or that? It's like, you literally need nothing. Like as long as you can like talk to people and you know, like you said, be like genuinely curious about, you know, about them, like you don't need any of that. And one thing that you that I love about like the approach that you did in terms of just in terms of like listening and asking questions and understanding them, is you kind of like seeded that, because you knew their goals, because you knew their mission, because you knew all these things, like those are the same things you gather in a sales call. So they almost like were able to see, okay, like this guy is attentive, he has questions, he's curious, he understands about like us and our problems and goals, and like you're basically on that's like you're on a sales call at that point. No, absolutely, you're right. You know, I didn't even think about that part of it, but it is, you're kind of showing them how invested you are, and then how proactive you are. I think is really a good word. I think I was a little bit more proactive than the people I was competing against for the spot, you know. And if you can find ways to show that, I think that'll really help you stand out amongst the crowd. So you said we were talking before about like the setup, like the first thing you jumped on, because I talk to a lot of people in the podcast, and most people have, you know, they're in good lighting, you know, that type of stuff. But your setup, I mean, you have your name in the back. I mean, you have the mic, you have the color, you have the wood. So like, do you think that played, like, do you recommend other people to like kind of do the same thing? Do you think it's overkill? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think if you want to stand out, there's no such thing as overkill. You know, like with my setup, you don't have to do this, but think about lighting. Think about a microphone. This cost me $40. You know what I'm saying? Like, invest into yourself, especially if you know that this is a career path that you want to go down for a long time. Just invest into it, because I'm telling you, it's going to make you stand out. Most people, they're showing up on the car, they're on their cell phone, they may have a camera, they don't care about lighting, they're not thinking about that stuff. So that sends the message to the person interviewing you or checking you out that you're serious. So anyways, you don't have to do this setup. To be honest, I'm a content creator, so I have all of this stuff. I totally get it. They're like, Jesus Christ, you're an influencer though. So I get it. I'm a content creator. At the same time, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to have your name. But if you have some good lighting, a good microphone, if you have just those two things, you're really gonna stand out from everybody else. And I've gotten compliments on my setup. Like, most of the time when I get on an interview, they say, I love your setup. Wow, that looks nice.
Yeah.
And it leaves a great first impression. So if you're just getting in and you're like, well, I don't have the money to spend $40 on the phone, man, go borrow it. Go borrow the money. Go to Amazon, get you a freaking softbox. You know what I'm saying? Set it up somewhere nice, because that's going to make you just stand out, man. Tell you that those are the compliments that I got most of the time was on my setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think a huge just overall theme that I think has helped you, like, there's all these little things that aren't little that like end up being like a big thing in terms of like you're doing the little things of creating good setup, you're doing the things of asking questions on these interviews, you're doing the things of, you know, making personalized videos. So it's like all these things, when you put them together, is such a huge, like, they make a huge difference. And it's no secret why you were able to, you know, to get to the point where you are. Okay, so you go through the interviews, and then which one did you, we don't have to go specific into like the type of offer, but like which one was there, one that like spoke to you more? Like, what's the process after that?
Yeah, so the offer that I'm on now really resonated with me because I'm a person, I'm about purpose, I'm about mission, calling, stuff like that, you know. And so this offer that I'm on now, it's serving coaches. It's a business offer, but it's serving specifically coaches who are really big on mission and awareness and spirituality and stuff like that. And so that really resonated with me, and it didn't hurt that I'm selling some really good stuff. You know, meaning that one of the offers is $9K, the other one is $15K, 10% on that, you know. And so I have the ability to really make a really great income, and I love the niche, the vertical that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. So with that offer, so you came in directly as a closer, right?
Yeah, I came in directly as a closer. And
you said so basically you did have some sales experience, I guess, previously, or not, like, yeah. I was selling my own offer. I was selling my own coaching offer, and I used to have a digital marketing agency in 2017, and so I do have some sales experience. And I think that's a great question because, you know, for someone who's brand new, I don't want to fluff this up like, yeah, I have a little bit of background in it, but still, though, some of the things that I'm sharing can be really helpful for someone, even if you're brand new. Yeah. No, the reason I asked is because a majority, you know, and I talk about this all the time, but, you know, I'd say about 80% of the people that we have on these episodes don't come from sales experience, right? They actually almost like they just look at sales as kind of like a negative thing, but then like their mindset changes. So I just want to, you know, really, like you said, like help people understand you don't need a ton of experience. You can literally jump into this with zero experience and still, you know, maybe not go directly in as a closer, you know, start as a setter and kind of up level from there. So you've been in this offer for, because I think you made your post about a month ago at this point. So what has been the experience so far? Maybe some of the like struggles that you've gone through, like what's just maybe beginning to end of how the last month's been.
Yeah. So I think some of the struggles, let me start with that, is I was expecting to get into the offer and kind of just be plugged in to a system that was already set up, that was booking calls on my calendar. You know, that's not necessarily been the case. It's been a lot of ramping up. So it's kind of a new offer, which I didn't think that this was a new offer. The entrepreneurs, they have a lot of experience, but this is kind of a newer offer in the market where they were selling a version of this, but now it's another version, which is kind of new. And so, getting calls on my calendar, I would definitely love to get way more calls on my calendar, but I believe in the offer. So I'm willing to be a little bit more patient, you know, with the entrepreneurs. They're great. I know that they're successful. They're just kind of figuring some things out still, kind of tweaking some things. I won't say figuring out, but tweaking some things. So yeah, I've had a struggle there. Beyond that, I think it's been good, man. I think the offer has been good. I think we've been communicative. I've been able to adapt coach training with their process, because I think when you get into an offer and you're in Cole's program, for me, it's the best, most extensive program that I've ever had on sales. And so it's like, hey, you're going to use this script. Just plug and put me on the phone. I got
exactly.
all I need is you guys pitch to put into the script. That's all I need. But, you know, they have their way of doing it, you know, and so you have to be a little bit more adaptable, because they probably already have a pitch, and then you got to adapt that pitch and then kind of intertwine it with all of the concepts that you learn in RCA. So with that being the case, that's been something that I've learned, and that's something that I've had to do. I've been a little bit more proactive as far as reaching out to people, kind of doing some setting myself, since calls aren't getting booked on my calendar as much as I would like them to. I've been going the extra mile, you know, by contacting people, reaching out, doing outbound calling to a warm list, meaning they signed up for something, and then I called them, you know. So been trying to be more proactive, but that's kind of been my overall experience for the past month or so.
Nice. What would you give as like maybe as like tips or something for someone? Because that what you just mentioned is something no one's really talked about, is the fact that, you know, some of these businesses that you're plugging into might not necessarily like be super familiar with like the training and the type of scripting. So it takes, like you said, like that weaving and finding like the common ground between the two. Do you have any tips for someone that might fall in that same position of, you know, they go into the offer, they might not be super familiar with the training, but you also as the closer know, hey, this is like the best in the industry. So any tips for someone in that same situation?
Yeah, I would say definitely, because as a salesperson, you do need confidence. That's one of the reasons that they hired you. So confidently, respectfully, you know, be proactive as far as, like, let me give you an example. So they didn't have a script at first, right? Mm-hmm. So I created the pitch. I went to their website. I went to their sales page, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to create the pitch, and then I sent it to them, you know, for them to look at, go over. So I was proactive, right? And they love that, you know. Of course, they want to tweak some things and stuff like that. But just be proactive. Be someone who is an asset. So if you see that they don't have something, maybe you can create it for them. Like for another example, so when I get on these sales calls, one of the things that I'm going to do is create like slides of testimonials, so to say, case studies. And so I can show them. So when they ask, I go, oh, well, let me pull it up for you. And it's right there. It's right there. So this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. It makes it more visual and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I'm being more proactive. So now I'm becoming an asset. I created the skit. I created the script, the pitch for them. I created some case studies for them. So they're like, yo, this guy, we can't lose this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because he's too proactive. He's an asset. So I would say try to find ways to become an asset on a team where it's almost like, I can't really fire you. Even if you're not hitting your numbers. Yeah. Well, so that's what I was saying.
Dude, and that's such a good tip, not even for just remote closing. I think like any job or anything where you have like, you know, a higher up. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I forgot who exactly it was, but they were talking about, you know, it's like a Q&A type thing. And someone asked, you know, how can I make sure that like I have job security in this market? Cause you know, inflation and layoffs and whatever. So the way that he answered it was like, just make yourself unreplaceable, like make it and do the things that like, if you're gone, like it's gonna hurt them, you know. Not in like a, you know, a negative way, but just you know, being like you said, proactive. And I think also having that mentality, not only from like a job security standpoint, but also just like an income potential standpoint. You know, at the last RCA event, one of our CEO Mitchell Miles of STA, he was going into like, you know, he went from a point where he was, you know, doing like $5-10 grand a month as a closer up to, you know, 60,000-70,000 a month. And the only way that he did that was like, he didn't just go and say, hey, I want to make more money. He said, hey, like, you know, Cole or, you know, within the company, what do I need to do and what are the steps that I need to take in order to make me worth this amount of money? And then it's like you take the steps and do the things and take the actions that are going to get you to that point. So that's basically what you said. And I think you're, you know, wherever you go, you stay on this offer, whatever other offer, I think you're going to do super well. So what would you give as like, you know, maybe someone that, let's say, or take into consideration someone comes into RCA, what would you give them as tips of like, how do they hit the ground running as quickly as possible? How do they see as quick of success as you did?
Yeah. I would say listen to your coach, actually do the things, you know, even if you got to stay up late. I know some people have jobs and they have, you know, other things until they get ramped up, but try to go through the content as quickly as possible, because the quicker you get wins, the more you'll stay motivated. So once you finish that, you know, boom, you check that off, you check that off, you check that off, and then hop on the setter calls with people. Because I think if you come in apathetic and you get apathetic, you know, you're going to lose momentum. You're going to lose excitement. You're going to feel like this isn't working for you, you know. So jump on those calls, because I've made friends. Like, I've made friends on these calls, you know, which is helpful to stay accountable. So I would say get through the content as quickly as possible. Jump on the calls, coaching calls, as well as the setter calls, and then start self-sourcing. And the reason why I say that is because some of these interviews are just practice. Some of this stuff is just practice. It's not going to be your main offer. But the more reps you get in, like, I forgot I was on the interview because I was looking at this document to try to remember some of the stuff that I wanted to recall in the interview. So I forgot I was on the interview, and then we just all of a sudden went into a mock call, and I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And so I'm rocking in my chair, like I'm so comfortable. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think that's, and I was comfortable, forgot I was on camera, and he was like, yeah. I was like, do you have any feedback? And he was like, yeah, man, you just seemed a little too casual. You're just rocking in your chair.
I mean, that's what happens when you do so many mock calls that you forget that, oh, wait, this is like actually, this is the game.
Right. So I took that, and it was reps for me. I was like, oh, okay, I need to remember that I'm on camera, because I'm used to taking calls on calls and not on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I use a full range of my expression. I talk with my hands on calls, but being on camera, I realized, okay, yeah, I need to make a mental note that I'm on camera, and as a way that I need to present myself, because these people see me. So that's not something that I would have learned if I wasn't self-sourcing and if I didn't get that feedback. And so self-source, even if it's an offer that you don't want, that you don't like, get those reps in, learn as much as you can learn, and apply it for the thing that you really do want.
Yeah, like an analogy that I always give is, or maybe not an analogy, but like an example is, you know, someone like, you know, a professional athlete like Michael Jordan or LeBron James, whoever, if they saved the only time for them playing was in the game, they would not be the greats as they are, right? They spend hours upon hours, dozens of hours just watching back their videos, right? In this case, you could be watching or, you know, listening back to your calls. You know, shooting free throws, right? Same thing. Getting on your mock calls, putting on those reps. So I think people have that, you know, that misconception of like, oh, I'll just come in and I'll send a couple messages and I'll get placed. Actually, on that note, how many, like, was there like a structure that you followed in terms of your self-sourcing of like, I'm going to reach out to this amount of people per day or have this amount of conversations? Like, did you have like KPIs for yourself?
Yeah, I did. I actually tried to hit the 250 in the first week. And what I did was I said, I'll send out at least 15 videos a day. 15 videos. Because videos take a little longer. Like, it's not just a message. But I'm telling you, when you send out 15 videos and you look good, right? Like, you're getting responses from like 10 of those 15. And those are going to lead to interviews, you know. So I was sending out about 10 to 15 videos a day. I actually couldn't even keep up with the responses.
Yeah.
It got hard to keep up.
To have.
So doing that, I got like 3 offers the first week, just from doing those videos. Nice. It just wasn't offers that I really wanted to be on, you know. So yeah, I would say about 10 to 15 videos a day was really game changing. And if you do some of the things that we talked about earlier in the interview with your setup, I'm telling you, it's going to, it won't be long before you get people offering you to come on board.
Yeah. And I think a really important part on that too, just like around the volume and stuff, is it's so important. And this relates back to like sales calls as well, but it's super important to be able to live in that abundance mindset. So with you, because you couldn't keep up with responses, you had so many people coming through, it's like, kind of like you said, you had the opportunity to be like, well, this offer isn't that great. It doesn't align with my values. And you could be like, hey, no thanks. And you had just more and more coming to you, as opposed to, you know, if someone put in the minimal amount of work and they got one offer in a month, they're like, it doesn't really align, but like I also need to make money. So people make the decisions when they're in that scarcity mindset of like, you know, the decisions that they might not make if they had, you know, more actually coming to them. So that's a really, really good point. And even like, how long do you think it took you to send out the 15 videos a day?
It probably took me, honestly, no more than 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Probably no more than 2 hours recorded. I tried not to edit because editing takes time. So I tried to record it, get it one take. Don't make it super complicated. Just make sure you shine with your personality, you know, and then send it. So I would say about no more than 2 hours, at the most 4.
Yeah, I just want to set like proper expectations with people, because, you know, I think when they hear like, oh, I need to make 15 videos, it's like, that's going to take 3 days. It's like, no, just literally. And at the end of the day, you're saying almost the same thing in each of these, right? It's like, hey, what's going on? Aaron here. Love what you got going on. Love to have a conversation to see if this is a fit. You know, shoot me a message back if that's something you're open to chatting about. Like that's literally it, you know, outside of the minimal research you do for each of those videos. So, cool, man. So what would you say is like your favorite like part about RCA? If you can nail it down to like one thing.
I would say the objection handling is probably. Are you talking about the training or just the program as a whole?
About the whole program in and of itself. So the coaching, the training, like anything that comes to mind.
I would say the community. And so when I say community, I'll include coaching, setter calls. And I love that it's not on Facebook. You get the notifications. So I would say community as a whole. The community. Like, don't get me wrong, the training is world class, but the community keeps you stuck. It almost it like draws you in and grabs a hold of you and then won't let you go. You know, so I would say the community.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's literally I think the number one answer of most people, because I agree. Like I have the app on my phone, I get the notifications from it, and it's just like it's really awesome to see, you know, even just like this even full circle moment of, you know, you saw the podcast a couple months ago and, you know, now you're within the program. It's like seeing all these people within the group. You know, I get messages like daily of people who are like, hey, like I saw your video, I saw the podcast, you know, I saw the posts within the group, and like that's what got me motivated and that's what got me excited. So it's cool to see all that stuff and just being able to see like just constant wins from everyone else, right? You know, this person's getting placed, this person's making this amount of money, like whatever it is, right? This person is, you know, they can now support their family. They quit their 9-to-5. Their wife retired because of just the amount of income they're able to make now. So it's really a really cool thing to see, just sitting in there and scrolling through the wins. So last, like, you know, two questions here. What would you say to someone, you know, that was maybe in a similar situation to you, where like they had something else going on, right? Influencer, social media marketing stuff. What would you say to that person if they're kind of on the fence of just getting and taking that jump into just high ticket sales in general, not necessarily RCA, just like some of the things that helped you make the decision to be like, hey, I need to do this instead of the other things I'm doing?
Yeah, I would say as a creator, especially, you know, we have so many ideas. We have so many things that we can be good at. Like, you can be good at this. You can be good at that. And maybe you're on a job that's like, oh, man, I'm good at it, but I don't feel energized by it. and also it doesn't really have a great path financially for the future. I would say to that individual, focus on the thing that you're most excited about. And if that is transformation of people, then you should jump into sales, because it's not this sleazy car salesman or something like that. It's literally just helping people get to where they want to be. And you are part of that journey. And you get to, this is something you're never going to lose. You're never going to lose the skill to sell and to talk to people. So regardless of where you end up, sales is every part of your life. You're selling. When you walk outside, I put on certain clothes, right? Because I want to be perceived as so. That's sales. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is, in my opinion, the best career path someone could choose if they want to help people, if they care about transformation, and they want to make a good amount of money where there is no cap to this. There is no cap to your potential and what you can make. I think you should jump in. You should get off the fence. Just go. You've been searching YouTube for like 4 hours a day and you got lost in the rabbit hole of YouTube. It's time for you to just make the decision and do it.
Oh man, dude, that was I think we have to end it on that one. That was a good one. Actually, I do have one more, but I'll give you a second to think about it because I'm going to do a little outro. But okay. I want you to give just like one of your biggest tips or tricks that you might have for someone that is like that's in the space that they could like implement today. Something that's super applicable. So think about that. For those of you that have listened up to this point, we've been going for like 40 minutes. You're probably interested. I mean, if you're in that rabbit hole that Josh just mentioned, you're at a point where you're like, okay, like this remote closing thing sounds interesting, something that I might be interested in. So down in the description, if you're watching on YouTube and in the show notes of the podcast app, there's going to be a link to book a call with our team here at the Remote Closing Academy. And what we're going to do, massive disclaimer, it's not a high pressure pitch fest of like, hey, you need to buy this thing. It's more of, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out more about you, your current, circumstances. What are your goals? Do you have a family? Like just really deep dive into your current situation. And then if it's something we can help out with, obviously we can talk about what that looks like. If not, we'll give you an action plan to be like, hey, take these next steps. Here's how you're going to further your remote closing academy journey or remote closing journey. And then also, we have a ton of content on our YouTube channel here on the channel as well. So click the link down below, book a call with the team, like 30 minutes, could help you out a ton if it's something you're interested in. So hopefully that gave you enough time. What do you think? Yeah. Biggest tip for someone?
Biggest tip is you only have one time to make a first impression if you're doing video calls. And what I mean by that specifically is when you jump on this video call and that person logs on, smile. Like, I know it sounds simple, right? But actually smile, because that exchange of energy, this person may be nervous. They may be a little bit uncomfortable. They may be feeling like they're jumping on something. I know this guy's going to push me they're not just going to let me off the hook.
Yeah.
Smile. And then that exchange of energy immediately kind of lowers the resistance a little bit. When they can feel that energy, they can feel you, and they may have had a rough day. But don't get on this call and just be stone-faced if you're doing video calls.
Yeah. Dude, that's a really, really good tip because, and long time ago I did voice acting training for some stuff that I was doing. And they talked about the same thing. It's like when you're speaking, and even though you're not even on camera and you're smiling, you can hear the tone of someone's voice when you're smiling. So even more important when you come on camera, it's like have a smile, break through that sales resistance that people assume. And like at the end of the day, it's a conversation anyway. So, dude, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes. I think people are going to get a ton of value out of this, and also we're going to get a ton of clips because like you're just going nonstop with the value, man. I really, really do appreciate it. So again, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Again, click the link down below. Have a chat with us if you'd like to. My name is Aaron from the Remote Closing Academy podcast. We'll see you guys in the next one. Talk soon. Peace.